Bhutale Swam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Hanvitam Sha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So last time we were in the 6th chapter. We covered up the verses where we discussed about the destination of the unsuccessful yogi. Arjuna was concerned. He had a doubt that if one begins the path with the faith, with the shraddha, but then he becomes deviated, chalita manasa, then what will happen to him? So then Krishna told him, so Arjuna basically is saying that yogi will not attain then the material success. I mean, neither the material success nor the spiritual success, because he's trying to perform austerities here. So he's deprived from the material enjoyment. But then on the path he gets deviated, so no spiritual success for him. So he's like no man, no lands man then. So Krishna then in verse number 39, 37, 38, Arjuna expressed his doubt. 39, then Krishna is the authority to destroy all the doubts. So Arjuna is placing this question before him. And then 40th verse, Lord replied to him that one who is the Kalyan Kriti, engaged in auspicious activities, he never need to fear degradation. Vinasha tasya, uska kabhi vinash nahi hoga. So what is meant by auspicious path? And Srila Prabhupada, we saw how he explains that auspicious paths are only those paths which lead to liberation. And then inauspicious, they are the weaker, means we will do what we want to do. And the marginal in between are the karam kandis, who can go to the heavenly planets by following some rules and regulations. Then really auspicious are the karam yogis or the gyan yogis, the shtang yogis, and of course the bhakti yogis, because they don't have to fear then degradation, because they have established the connection with the supreme. To some level they are getting detached from the fruit, or they are developing the knowledge about the supreme, and then they're establishing the connection with the Paramatma, or in Bhakti Yoga, of course, they are engaged in the devotional service. So these people don't have to fear the degradation thing. And 41st verse, then Krishna said, some yogis may fall down after a few years of practice because of material allurements, since they have desires to enjoy. Then what happens is they are allowed to enter the heavenly planets for very, very long time, and they can have all the enjoyment there. And then when they come back, they take birth in a aristocratic family or a Brahmana family. Then in verse number 42nd, so in 41st verse he said, after some years, and in 42nd verse then Krishna is telling somebody who falls after very long practice, then what happens to him? He gets a chance to take birth in very elevated Vaishnava family. So first is Brahmana and aristocratic family, then it is transcendental family, where there is 100% chance to continue his devotional service, unlike the previous case. 43rd verse, then Krishna is telling what happens when he takes birth in such a family. So then he continues his spiritual journey. We took the example of Bharat Maharaj, how he was in the body of a deer, because of distraction at the end of his life. But in the body of deer also he remembered his previous life, and then he came back in a Brahmana family as Jad Bharat, where he was not allured by any material things. He was focused on his goal, and he could attain the success. Okay, so today we will start from verse number 44. Purva abhyasena teneva hriyatah avashopi saha jigyasurapi yogasya shabdo brahmati vartate. Varnali Mataji, you can read.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by His Grace, Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. By virtue of divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Purport: advanced yogi are not much attracted to the rituals of the scriptures, but they automatically become attracted to the yoga principles, which can elevate them to complete Krishna consciousness. The highest yoga perfection. In Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7, such disregard of Vedic rituals by the advanced transcendentalist is explained as follows: Aho vata swapachot tagaryan jat jivagre vartate nama tubhyam tehpus tapas te jujuvu sasmur anya brahma nuchur nama grihati yete. O my Lord, persons who chant the holy names of our lordships are far, far advanced in spiritual life, even born in families of dog eaters. Such chanters have undoubtedly performed all kinds of austerities and sacrifices, battled in all sacred, bathed in all sacred places, and finished all spiritual studies. The famous example of this was presented by Lord Chaitanya, who accepted Thakur Haridasa as one of his most important disciples. Although Thakura Haridasa happened to take his birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya due to his highly rigidly attended principle of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And because he chanted the holy name of Lord constantly, it is understood that in his previous life he must have passed through all the ritualistic methods of the Vedas known as Shabda Brahma. Unless therefore one is purified, one cannot take the principles of Krishna consciousness or become engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. So
Hare
we
Krishna.
understand here because of
Yeah.
the Purva Abhyasena. So Purva means the previous life's yogic practice. Then one is forcibly or automatically he becomes attached, he becomes attracted, to the Lord's service. Avasho is like essentially he becomes attracted to the yogic practice. So that's how then such a yogi he continues on this path. It's almost like something is pushing him towards this practice. Something will force him to do it. So that is the impulse of his practices from the previous life. We have the example of Bharat Maharaj, as we already discussed. Then we also have example of Billav Mangal Thakur. Billav Mangal Thakur, great devotee, he was attracted to a prostitute when on one rainy night the weather was very bad, and still he made it to that prostitute's house. She told him that only if you could take so much trouble uh, to reach Krishna, your life would have been successful. Why are you doing this for me? I am a mortal body. And then that Bilo Mangal Thakur, he realized, this one sentence of that prostitute, she became his guru. That one sentence transformed his life, because in his previous life he was a great devotee. So she reminded him of all that, and he just gave up everything, stopped coming to that prostitute, and he became such a amazing devotee. Bilo Mangal Thakur, we have so many bhajans and literature by him. So, and among Srila Prabhupada's disciples also, we have many devotees who very spontaneously got attracted to Krishna consciousness. When Prabhupada went in the Western world, it's to our amazement how the people who didn't know about Krishna, Rama, how they could dedicate their life for Prabhupada. So of course it's believed they had previous connection to Prabhupada, to devotional service, to the yogic path. That's why they got attracted. Now, there's one story of Govinda Dasi Mataji. She and her would-be, she was engaged to one person. So they both were hippies, and it was in 1967. And that time Srila Prabhupada was to come from New York to San Francisco. They both were in San Francisco. And the devotees there in San Francisco were distributing flyers. It was written, Swamiji is coming, Swamiji is coming. They were distributing flyers and they were just, shouting like that. So she took one flyer and she showed it to her would-be and said that we will go to him, and do whatever he says. I want to meet this person. So she had been, why she had that inclination to meet the Swamiji? Because she had been practicing meditation yoga for 8 hours every day. Every day she was trying to control her senses and meditate. And she had seen this Back to Godhead magazine once in an Indian store there in US, and she saw Srila Prabhupada's photo on the back side, and the description about Srila Prabhupada at the back was written, and she had a vision of Srila Prabhupada right in front of him, like in the store itself. When she was looking at Srila Prabhupada's picture, reading about him, she had a vision of Srila Prabhupada right in front of him, standing in front of him, and he was calling her, come to me, come to me. With his hands he was calling her to him, and she burst in tears. She was crying out, standing in the store in front of everybody, I have found him, I have found him. So obviously, that shows that there was a connection. There was a previous connection with Srila Prabhupada of her, of most of the devotees who got attracted to Prabhupada there. And after meeting Srila Prabhupada, I'm sorry, after meeting Srila Prabhupada, then in San Francisco, she didn't require any preaching. And she took to Krishna consciousness, instantaneously. So that is what is, I'm sorry, just give me a break. I'll have one. Yeah, Hare Krishna. So that's what we see here in this verse, that bhakti yoga can be practiced without other yoga systems also. Someone comes to the highest path of bhakti yoga, that means it's understood then that person has already got the result of the other yoga systems. Srila Prabhupada is here giving example of Namacharya Haridas Thakur. And even if a person is born in a dog eater's family, if he has got taste for the holy name, he is like, his life is successful. It's like, what is it? Or he has performed all kinds of austerities, sacrifices, bathed in all sacred places. So this is because he has connection from he's carrying that bhakti unmukhi sukrati from the previous lives, and he's starting it here, even if he's born in a degraded family. Namacharya Haridas Thakur was born in Muslim family, but still he is named Namacharya by none other than the Lord himself, Lord Chaitanya. So that's what we understand from here. And Srila Prabhupada also in his lecture gives example of the High Court judge, not necessary to ask him if he has gone to school and college and all that. Obviously, if he is at such a high post, that means he has covered up all the primary school, secondary school, higher school, college, university, everything. So that's how, if somebody is at this level, that means they have already covered up the previous yoga systems in their life, in previous lives. Moving on to verse number 45. प्रयत्नाद्यत्मानस्तु योगी संशोध किल्बिष अनेक जन्म संसिद्धस्ततो याति पराम गतिम. Will it? Vijayalakshmi Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation: when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Purport: a person born in a particularly righteous, aristocratic, or sacred family becomes conscious of his favorable condition for executing yoga practice. With determination, therefore, he begins his unfinished task, and thus he completely cleanses himself of all material contaminations. When he is finally free from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection, Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the perfect stage of being freed of all contaminations. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2.7.28. Yesham येषां त्व अन्तगतं पापं ज्ञानं पुण्यकर्मणं ते द्वन्द्व मोह निर्मुक्त bhajante mam dridha vrataha. After many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely freed from all contaminations and from all illusory dualities, one becomes engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So here the very first word, Priyatanath. Priyatan, Priyatan is what? Endeavor. So this person then he keeps this yogi, he keeps endeavoring, practicing. Priyatan. He continues his yogic practice even if he gets a chance in the, whatever single chance he gets in the life, he will just start from there. He does not relax now. When he has come to this stage, he will not relax. But he will keep making the endeavor, he will keep making the priyatan to progress further in his life. And this may take many lifetimes till he comes to the ultimate perfection of full Krishna consciousness, aneka janma samsiddha. So aneka janma it can take him to achieve that samsiddha param gatin, supreme goal. And to become free from all contaminations, it may take many births. Prabhupada is also giving this verse from Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter. So, Paramatma, he gives him inspiration from within that you missed this point and you stopped at this point. And now from here, you come on, begin again, be perfect. Don't lose this chance. So Paramatma is like so kind. He gives a smriti, jnanam, he tells that, in a later chapter, 15th chapter, I believe, that how he is situated in everybody's heart. Hriday samavishto mataha smriti jnanam apohanam cha. So sitting in the heart, he gives a smriti, memory, he gives jnana, knowledge, and apohanam, forgetfulness also. We don't remember anything about our previous life. So he only then reminds that person that you stopped at this point and now, this all knowledge you have, now move from here. So Paramatma arranges all the situations and the yogi then starts from that point, continues till he reaches the Param Gatin, supreme goal. Verse number 46. Tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi, jnanabhyo api mato adhika, karmibhyascha yogi, tasmad yogi bhava arjuna. Chitresh Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation: a yogi is greater than ascetic, greater than empiricist, greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi. Purport: when we speak of yoga, we refer to linking our consciousness with the supreme absolute truth. Such a process is named differently by various practitioners in terms of the particular method adopted. When the linking process is predominantly in fruitive activities, it is called Karma Yoga. When it is predominantly empirical, it is called Jnana Yoga. And when it is predominantly devotional, predominantly in a devotional relationship with the Supreme Lord, it is called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness is the ultimate perfection of all yogis, all yogas, as will be explained in the next verse. The Lord has confirmed herein the superiority of yoga, but he has not mentioned that it is better than Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is full spiritual knowledge and therefore nothing can excel it. Aestheticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is Bhakti Yoga, and this is still more clearly explained in the next verse.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here basically the yoga ladder is explained by Prabhupada. So how from Karam Yoga one goes to Jnana Yoga, then goes to Ashtanga Yoga, and then Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga is explained here in the purport. So the Lord has confirmed the superiority of this yoga here, but he has not mentioned, that it is. He is confirming the superiority of what are we doing Dhyāna-yoga here. but he has not mentioned here that it is better than Bhakti Yoga. That he will confirm in the next chapter, that Bhakti Yoga is the best. Dhyana Yoga is better than the previous yogas, but it is not better than Bhakti Yoga. So in the next verse, Krishna will establish that Bhakti Yoga is the best. So basically here what we are understanding, the last part of the purport, asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. What is asceticism? We just learned in the top few lines. Asceticism, sorry, is practicing austerities and all. And so that austerity and all, without attaining the knowledge of the self, it is imperfect. That yoga is of no use then. Empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord, that is also imperfect. Okay, after asceticism, after performing the austerities, here empiric means knowledge, based upon knowledge. If you have got the knowledge, but you have not surrendered to the Supreme, then that is also imperfect. It's not complete. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is definitely a waste of time. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance is Bhakti Yoga. And this is still more clearly explained in the next verse. So in next verse, now Krishna will explain how Bhakti Yoga is the supreme. There is no point in performing austerities or attaining the knowledge if we don't surrender to the Lord. Verse number 47, it's an important verse of this chapter. Yogi namapi sarvesham matgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yuktamo matah. We have a long purport here. Yeah, Bandali Mataji, you will read? Yeah,
Hare Krishna,
you read it
Mataji.
if you want. Yeah, otherwise you read it yourself. Thank you,
Okay.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by His Grace, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And of all yogis, one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me is the most intimately he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and he is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Purport. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in verb bhaj, which is used when there is need of service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshipping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. The Bhagavatam 11.5.3 confirms this as follows. Ye isham purusham sakshat atma prabhavam ishwaram na bhajanti avijananti Thamad Bhrashta Patanti Adha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. In these verse also, the word bhajanti is used. Therefore, bhajanti is applicable to Supreme Lord only, whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods or any other common living entity. The word Jananti used in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is also found in the Bhagavad Gita. Abhijananti mam murha. Only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Such fools take it upon themselves to write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajanti and the word worship. The culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti in Bhakti Yoga. Yoga actually means Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are progressions towards the destination of Bhakti Yoga. From the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma Yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. When Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called Jnana Yoga. When Jnana Yoga increases in meditation on the super soul by different physical processes and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when the one surpasses the Ashtanga Yoga and comes to the point of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Factually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to the particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name: Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, or Dhyāna Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, and of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The real yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shyama Sundara, and who is as beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded, illuminating all sides is his gorgeous luster, who, which is called the Brahmayoti. He incarnates in different forms such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudeva. He is the perfect child, husband, friend, and master. He is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities of. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. This stage of perfection in yoga can be attained only by Bhakti Yoga and is confirmed in all Vedic literature. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha garo tasyate kathita hi ardha prakashante mahatmana. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Shetashwara Upanishad 6.23. Bhakti rasa bhajanam tvam iha mutro iha mutropadi.
Mataji, read
Mataji,
only
can
the
I skip that? Yeah, Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desire for material profit, either in his life or in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the supreme. That is purpose of Naishya karma. Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.15. There are some of the means for performance of bhakti or Krishna consciousness. These are some of the means of the performance of bhakti or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of yoga system. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the sixth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam Gita in the matter of Dhyāna-yoga. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Here we complete the 6th chapter. So in this verse, what Prabhupada is telling, we'll start with the purport. In the very first paragraph, Prabhupada is trying to explain us the meaning of bhajate. In English, we call this also worship. But, we don't have all the replacements in English for the Sanskrit words. So Sanskrit bhajate is the different, Srila Prabhupada here is explaining that bhajate cannot be used for demigods or for any other personalities. It can be used only for the Supreme Lord, because it means worshipping with love. And people go to devtas, demigods, usually for some business. There is no love. Therefore, only worship can be used for them, and not bhajate. To the politicians or any of these big personalities here, there is some business, there is no love with them, there is some exchange. That's it. So that is worship, worshipping them. Bhajate is anything done with love. That is only for the Supreme Lord. And then we see, okay, so how bhakti yoga, it contains all the components of the other yoga systems. That is explained by Prabhupada here, as Srila Prabhupada, this paragraph, first, second, third paragraph, the culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti in bhakti yoga. So bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal, and others yogas, they are just the progression towards this bhakti yoga. Actually, yoga is bhakti yoga, Prabhupada is telling, and all others are just progression towards this bhakti yoga. For example, if there is a staircase to go up to some floor, and if we don't have to, if we stop on the 5th floor staircase only, somewhere in between, then we are just stuck. To reach the destination, we have to keep going up, keep going step by step, then we'll reach the destination. So bhakti yoga is that destination, the 10th floor where we have to go, and others are 3rd floor, 4th floor, 8th floor, like that. So if we get stuck at that point, then there is no use, like how we read in the previous verse also, without this there is no use, without this there is no use. So these are just steps which take us towards the goal, that is the yoga, connection with the Supreme. So bhakti yoga is the connection, and these others are just the steps, progression towards that. And Prabhupada then here in the same paragraph is explaining what is Karam yoga. Karam yoga is activity, with some result, with fruitive result. You are partially detached from the result, but you are doing it for some result. A person is attached to the work, but he's detached from the fruits. So Nishkam Karam Yoga and all what we have done. So sometimes he may be completely detached from the fruits, and sometimes he may be like Sakam Karam Yogi. He's partially attached to the fruits, but definitely, detached. I hope I said it right. So he's attached to the work and detached from the fruit. The detachment can be partial or it can be complete. Okay, so yeah, that's how it is. Then when Karam Yoga, it increases in knowledge. When we are doing some activity like that without getting attached to the result, then the knowledge is revealed from within. And renunciation is also, that naturally happens. You start getting detached from everything. This stage is then called Jnana Yoga. Okay, so Prabhupada is telling in Karam Yoga, there is detachment from the fruit. And then in Jnana Yoga, they are detached from the work, and then they have knowledge and renunciation also, right? Jnana Yoga, we get knowledge and renunciation, and detachment from the previous yoga system, that is also carried on. It just carries on. And when Jnana Yoga increases in meditation, now they've got the knowledge, oh, I'm soul, there is super soul. And so he starts meditating to establish, to get more knowledge and connection with that super soul by different physical processes. And he focuses his mind upon him. That is called Ashtanga Yoga. And what are the characteristics of Ashtanga Yoga then? Again, we start from Karam Yoga. What is the characteristic of Karam Yoga? Who will tell? Karam Yoga characteristic is?
Attachment with the work, partially or completely detachment from the result. Fruits.
Yes. So he is detached from the fruit. And then he gets he carries the characteristics of Jnana Yoga also. What are the characteristics of Jnana Yoga?
Knowledge.
Yes.
Yes. And then now in Ashtanga Yoga, what is he having? What is the characteristics? Meditation, controlling the mind. So in Ashtanga Yoga, then that yogi is having detachment from fruit, knowledge, renunciation, and meditation on the Supreme Soul by controlling his mind. Now, finally, when we come to Bhakti Yoga, to the point of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Sham Sundar, what Prabhupada is explaining here, all his forms and, Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, everything, then it includes all the previous characteristics. So, Chitresh Prabhu, will you cover this? What will be the characteristics now in Bhakti Yoga? What are the characteristics contained in Bhakti Yoga? We start from Karma Yoga.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So in Bhakti Yoga, it is rendering the transcendental service to the Lord and thinking about his.
No, Prabhuji, just a second. Yeah, excuse me. So you have to tell the characteristics of Bhakti Yoga. We are discussing about characteristics here. Bhakti Yoga will contain the characteristics of all the previous yoga systems also. And the previous yoga systems starting from Karma Yoga, then Jnana Yoga, and then Dhyāna-yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. So I'm asking you, what is the characteristic of Karma Yoga? So you have to cover up all the previous characteristics now to tell me what are the characteristics of Bhakti Yoga. So start from Karma Yoga.
Yeah. So in Karma Yoga, man is attached to the work and detached from the fruits. So in that way, service, the work.
Yoga, a devotee will be detached from the food. Okay, detachment from the food, that is the characteristic of Karma Yoga. Got it. Good job. Next, in Jnana Yoga, what is the characteristic?
Jnana Yoga is where the devotee is gathering all the knowledge of like all the empirical knowledge, like it is said here, and then using that to find the absolute truth.
Renunciation. So the characteristic of Jnana Yoga is knowledge and renunciation. He starts developing renunciation. He starts losing taste for other things then. So the characteristic of Jnana Yoga is knowledge and renunciation. Now in Bhakti Yoga, how do we have knowledge and renunciation? Because we have knowledge of Krishna. Yeah, and then renunciation in Bhakti Yoga is Yukta Vairagya, the proper renunciation we have. It's not like giving up a home, family, all the possessions, everything. But Yukta Vairagya means using everything in Krishna's service. Right? So that characteristic of Jnana Yoga is applicable in Bhakti Yoga also. So Bhakti Yoga covers up that characteristic. Next we have now Dhyāna Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. What is the characteristic of Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyāna Yoga?
So in Ashtanga Yoga, the devotee is focusing on controlling his mind through various practices. They can be meditation or physical yoga practices to control the mind and then associated it with the Lord.
Yeah, so meditation on the super soul, like on Mahatma, they are meditating and they are trying to control their mind. So now in Bhakti Yoga, how do we do that? Anybody? What do we meditate upon? How do we control our mind in Bhakti Yoga?
We use all our senses in the service of the Lord.
Yes. And meditation is, we meditate upon the
form
form
of
of the
the
Lord.
Yeah.
And we meditate on the Mahamantra also when we are chanting. That is also meditation, controlling our mind. So by every activity, in Bhakti Yoga, we cover up everything of the previous yoga system. And every activity is performed with love and devotion, which is missing in the previous yoga systems. So in addition to all that, in Bhakti Yoga, everything is performed with love and devotion for the pleasure of the Lord. Got it? So this is how Bhakti Yoga is the supreme. It's the topmost. In now verse, if you see the Sanskrit words, Yogi Nam Api Sarvesham Mad Gater Antaratmana Shraddhavan Bhajte Yomam Same Yuktatam Mada. So the very first line, Sarvesham, of all types of yogis, Mad Gaten, abiding, meaning always thinking of me. The person who is always thinking of me, Anta Atmanaha, within himself, Shraddhavan, in full faith, Bhajate. Bhajate means rendering devotional service to me. So bhajate word tells that Krishna is talking here about Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga, among all types of yoga systems, is the topmost. One who is thinking of Krishna all the time within himself, is rendering devotional service to him. He is Yuktatamo Mataha. So the greatest yoga. Tama means, Yukta Tama means the greatest yogi in my mata, in my opinion. He is the topmost yogi. So Krishna here is confirming. If somebody asks us, where in Bhagavad Gita Krishna is telling Bhakti yogi is the topmost and we should not practice other yoga systems and all that. Yeah, Krishna is not telling that we should not practice. Krishna has given us a choice. But here he is telling that this is the topmost yoga system. Bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal. But to analyze, not everybody can directly take up to Bhakti yoga. To analyze it minutely, one may have to, understand the other yoga systems first. And that's why Krishna is giving us, so many paths. He's talking about so many yoga systems. If this is the ultimate, he could directly tell us about Bhakti yoga, that this is what you have to do. But not everybody is at that level to do it directly. So Krishna says that, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, in 18th chapter also, Krishna tells that you deliberate now. I have given you all the knowledge, Arjuna, and now you think about it. Yatha icheshu tatha kuru. Whatever is your ichha, whatever you wish to do now, you do that. You take your decision. So Krishna never takes our free will away from us. He always gives choices. So that's why he's talking about other paths. He's giving us choice, but he is affirming here that Bhakti Yoga is the topmost. Okay, so this is where we complete now our 6th chapter, the first section of Bhakti Yoga, and we will go through quickly the first chapter. Okay. First chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhuji, you will also open that. Okay, any questions so far from the 6th chapter, whatever we did today at least? Okay, so we'll move on. So now this first chapter, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, this is divided into 5 sections. Okay, you just need to have an overview so that you don't lose the connection. No, don't take Bhagavad Gita as like just total philosophy and we can't understand it, just going above our head. Take it in in a flow form, then we can connect to it and we can understand, okay, what will come next, or this comes after that. So in a story form, it's very interesting. Bhagavad Gita is super interesting. So 5 sections the first chapter is divided into. The first section, that is the first verse only, that is Dhritarashtra's doubts. Then the second section will tell us about Duryodhana's diplomacy. Third section will tell us about signs of victory for the Pandavas. And fourth verse will tell us, Arjun Vishad Yog, how Krishna will act as Bhaktavatsalya, and Krishna is kind of preparing the situation for speaking Bhagavad Gita here. So that is the fourth section. And fifth one then is Arjuna's reasons for not fighting. So starting with the very first verse, we will not read the verses of purpose or anything here. If need be, I'll read the translation, or otherwise I'll just go like that. So in the first verse, there is a long purport here, and acharyas have given so many commentaries about it. So there are different, each and every word of this verse conveys a special meaning. So here, first of all, we understand that how Dhritarashtra, he was blind from birth, and unfortunately he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He didn't have material vision and nor the spiritual vision, and his 100 sons headed by Duryodhana, they were equally blind in the matter of religion. Pandavas, they were the sons of Pandu, Dhritarashtra's brother, and they were very virtuous, but they were usurped of their right to the kingdom by inappropriate means. Krishna tried in so many ways that, okay, share it if you can't give them full, but nothing was working. So now a fight was, it was to be called upon. So that's how they are at now the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and Dhritarashtra here is asking this question to Sanjaya. Now, what do we understand by this? Dhritarashtra, first of all, we understand is Dhritarashtra was partial to his own sons and he separated his nephews. Which word here tells us? Mamakaha. Mamakaha Pandavascha. So for his sons, he's calling Mamaka, and Pandu's son is called Pandavas. They all were from the Kuru dynasty. He can't call them Pandavas. No, his sons are considered to be Kauravas, and the sons of Pandus are called Pandavas. Rather, all of them were Kauravas. So he is being partial here. And then, okay, now then he, like, of course it is understood they have assembled there in the battlefield to fight. Why is he then asking Sanjaya that what are they doing there? Kim akurvata Sanjaya, what are they doing now? So this question, it expresses his, this is just, his mental state is described by the acharyas, that this tells us about his desire that his son get the kingdom. Then second thing it tells us, his doubt of the possibility of his son's victory. Will they win? I want them to win. And then he's fearful also because of the holy place Kurukshetra. It may have influence upon their sons to compromise. They are adharmic people and that place is dharmic. So they may compromise and leave. But he's hopeful also that under the holy influence, maybe Pandavas will compromise and leave. So there are different interpretations about it, because this question is very irrelevant. In the battlefield, obviously they are there to fight. Dharam Kshetre, Kurukshetre. So Dharam Kshetra hai, Kurukshetra. So definitely Dharam will prevail there. And Dharam is where Krishna is. And Krishna is on the Pandavas side. And Pandavas were dharmic. So this is how we understand a few things from this verse. What do we understand by Dharam Kshetre, Kurukshetre? And then Kshetre. Kshetre means field. And in any field, like in a paddy field, paddy will be grown. And in whatever, sugarcane field, sugarcane will be grown. And in Dharam Kshetre, what will be grown then? Dharam. So Kurukshetra is Dharam Kshetra. So Dharam will grow there, and other weeds, unwanted things which are growing along that crop, they are removed for a healthy crop. And the unwanted crop, the weeds here are Duryodhan and his brothers, his army. So they will be pulled out by Pandava's army with the help of Krishna. So Dharam Kshetre, Kurukshetre, what does this mean? Mamakaha Pandavas, this shows his partial mentality. And Kim Akurvata Sanjaya, this question also expresses his doubt, his fear, his desire, his hopefulness, everything. Okay, moving on to second verse. Now here Sanjaya is just telling him that, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke to the following words. So now Sanjaya will tell here, now 2 to 11. Now from, okay, that is the first section we have covered, the first verse. Now next section starts from here. Now from here, we will understand about Duryodhan's fear and diplomacy in describing about the armies. Duryodhan approaches Dronacharya. So here just Sanjay is telling that, okay, this is happening now. King Duryodhan, he has gone to his teacher. His teacher is Dronacharya, and he's speaking the following words. So from the third verse, then we understand what is he going to talk. Here we just, the point to notice here is that Duryodhan is called king here. Though he is not the king, his father is the king. But because he had that diplomatic political nature and is representing his father, the king, who because of his blindness could not be there on the field, that's why he's called king here. Now in the verse number 3, then we say he's talking to Dronacharya. And what is he doing here? The specific words here to be noticed are Drupad Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. He's saying, oh my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad. So there is a story behind all this. The son of Drupad is Drishtadumna. So I don't know, I don't feel like moving that fast also, but just a glimpse of the story, those who didn't attend this chapter. So Dronacharya and Drupad, they were friends when they were young. One was rich, one was poor. Dronacharya was obviously poor and Drupad was rich. And Drupad had promised him that, when they grow up, he will help him. He will give him cow and whatever. So when Drona asked for a cow, Drupad refused. And then Drona felt insulted and he decided to take revenge. And for that revenge, he defeated him in a battle, with the help of his students, with his disciples. But they left him alive, that, okay, don't have to kill him, just defeat him to teach him a lesson. That, what do you think? You are very rich, very powerful king. I can, show my power too. And then Drupad, he felt insulted. So he performed a sacrifice for begetting children. And he got a Drishtadumna and Draupadi. And the Drishdumna, he was supposed to kill Dronacharya. Knowing this, when Drishtadyumna approached Dronacharya for attaining knowledge, Dronacharya still accepted him and gave him the military training. So to incite that anger, that enmity towards Drupad, Duryodhan here, that's his diplomacy, that shows his mind. He is using the word son of Drupad. He's not saying Drishtadumna. If he says Drishtadumna, he may have affection for his student, Dronacharya. But he's saying son of Drupad, son of your enemy. You only gave him this knowledge, and now see how he's using that knowledge, and he has arranged the army so perfectly, so expertly. So he's trying to remind him of that okay, you performed your duty there, but now you have to perform the duty on my side. So he's indirectly conveying to his teacher, this is his diplomacy, the commander-in-chief. So then verse number 4, we see how he's judging his enemy's strength. He's directly didn't start talking about his army side. He's talking about enemy's army. So fourth verse is saying, here in this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima, Arjuna, great fighters like this. So he's just talking about them. So the lesson for us to learn from here, Srila Prabhupada helps us to understand that this is the a wisdom. We need to attain that. First of all, we should judge our enemy's strength. That's the real intelligence. Then we should take the action. Then we can prepare accordingly. In our spiritual practice also, who is our enemy? Maya, material energy, our mind. So we have to understand the strength of Maya, understanding that she is a great enemy, a formidable enemy. We should be very careful and alert in planning and practicing our devotional service. So Duryodhana is doing that here. And then verse number then all these verses there, 3 to 6 till 6th verse. Now he's just talking about the Pandavas army. He's doing that. Now in the 7th verse, he is coming to but for your information, oh best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force. Now he's like, he's making sure that Dronacharya doesn't get discouraged. Oh, their army is so nicely arranged. They have such great warriors on their side and all this. No, don't be discouraged. Yeah, we have seen them. Now we have to prepare and plan accordingly. See, our army is also equally qualified, very specially qualified. And 8th verse again, he's telling, see, he's pointing out to the personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, and Vikarna also. Vikarna is a son of, Dhritarashtra only. He's a brother of Duryodhan. Though he's not a very great warrior, his name is mentioned here. Again, his diplomacy, because he's trying to please him. Why he wants to specially please Vikarna? Because during that disrobing incident of Draupadi, nobody spoke a word in support of Draupadi to help her. Only Vikarna spoke. So he's like, Vikarna should not get that feeling of compassion for Pandavas again. So he's just, what do you call that? Buttering kind of, thing. Vikarna, you're such a great warrior on my side. So he'll be happy that, oh, my brother needs me. I will do good for him. So he's using his diplomacy here to keep him loyal to his side and not to have a soft corner for the Pandavas. And another thing is, first he is mentioning you, then Bhishma. Their main commander-in-chief is Bhishma, but still he is calling out to Dronacharya first. Why? Again, he's showing here that Dronacharya is a Brahman and Bhishma is Kshatriya. So if a Brahman is addressed first, Bhishma will not mind. Bhishma will also be happy and Dronacharya will be happy. But if he addresses Bhishma first, then Bhishma will be happy, but Dronacharya may mind. So he's trying to keep both of them happy. Then verse number 10 to 11, he is comparing the two armies. Okay, our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, it's protected by Bhima and it is limited. So in this verse, the first two words of the two lines, apryapatam and pryapatam, they are very important. Apryapatam means immeasurable and pryapatam means limited, what can be measured. So one meaning can be that their Kaurva side strength is immeasurable because Bhishma is there to protect them. And the Pandava side strength is Pryapatam, limited, because Bhima is on their side and Bhima has limited strength compared to Bhishma. Now, other meaning according to Acharyas is also, Apryapatam also means insufficient. Okay, it means immeasurable, but it also means insufficient. And Pryapatam means sufficient. So the other meaning will be Bhishma, their strength is insufficient. Why? Because Bhishma has affection for Pandavas. He is great warrior, but he has affection. And on the other side, Pandava's strength is sufficient, Pryapatam, because Bhima is boiling with rage, with anger to kill the Kauravas. He has no affection for anybody on Duryodhana's side. So both the meanings here are correct. And again, Duryodhana's diplomacy is seen here. How? By saying these two words, Bhishma will be encouraged taking the first meaning, that he is protecting everybody and he's great. And Dronacharya would to take the other meaning, that their strength is insufficient because Bhishma has a soft corner for them. Therefore, he will do his best to help the Kauravas, to make him more alert. So in this verse, by using these two words, he's encouraging Bhishma and is alerting Dronacharya at the same time. Verse number 11, again, there is a comparison. After glorifying the Maharathis, the other warriors who should not feel useless. So to encourage them, he's saying this, that Bhishma is an old man, so you all should give protection to him from all the sides. Then verse number 12 to 19, now what happens is, these are the signs of victory. We have come to the third section of the chapter now. Third section is signs of victory for the Pandavas. So here we will see different types of conch shells are being blown by everybody. The names of the conch shells are given. So I will not read each and every part of that. So we just see that, verse number 12, 13, Bhishma Dev blew his conch shell loudly. And Bhishma Dev, after, Duryodhana spoke all this to him, he didn't say a word. He just quietly blew his conch shell. Without talking to yes, Duryodhana, we will do our best. Nothing. He didn't say anything. So what do we understand from that? That Bhishma knew that he had no chance of victory. So he didn't have any word to tell him. So he just quietly did his duty. He just blew his conch shell. Verse number then 14, we see Lord Krishna and Arjuna. They sounded their conch shells, and the word used here is Divya Shankhu. Their conch shell, Krishna's conch shell, is Divya. It's transcendental. And 15 to 16, we have names of the conch shells. So these names also, for the quiz or anything, you should have an idea. Rishikesha means Lord Krishna. His conch shell is Panchaganya. Dhananjaya is Arjuna. His conch shell is Devdutt. Vrakodara, that is Bhima, voracious eater. His conch shell is Pondra. Yudhishthira's conch shell is Ananta Vijaya. Nakula's conch shell is Sughosha. And Sahadev's conch shell is Mani Pushpaka. This Yudhishthira, Nakul, Sahadev, they are in the next verse, 16th verse, the first part, 17th, 18th, they all are combined. So in the 16th verse, we see all that. And in 17 and 18, other people's conch shells, they are described. Abhimanyu and Drupad and Satyaki and everybody's. Oh, it's already 9:1. Okay, anyways, we have covered up these 3 sections of this chapter now. If you spare 10 minutes extra, we can complete this chapter. Otherwise, we will continue next week, whatever you say. Mataji's, Prabhuji's.
Can we do next week, Mata?
Okay, sure. Sure, Mataji. Huh? So this is how this first chapter is going on. So today, who will tell me what sections did we cover up? The first section was? This is just a revision for you. The first section is?
Dhritarashtra's doubt.
Yes. So Dhritarashtra's doubt and all that. And the second section is?
Diplomacy of Duryodhana and his fear against Pandavas.
Yes. So that we covered up. And now we have to cover up the third section. That will be signs of victory for the Pandavas. Okay. In the next few verses. And then Krishna will take the chariot in the middle of the 2 armies as a Bhaktavatsalya. And then Arjuna will give the reasons for not fighting. That's all about this chapter. Thank you so much, everybody. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Have a very